All right, deep divers. Uh, Buckle up. We're going deep on this DC scandal that's got everyone talking. Olivia Nuzzi, Ryan Lizza, RFK Jr. Like, what even is going on here? It's a mess. We've got court filings, accusations flying everywhere, and it's giving he said, she said, like you wouldn't believe. Oh, and before I forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you think of this wild ride in the comments.
It's crazy how fast this all went down, right? Nuzzi and Lizza were like the power couple of journalism, young, ambitious, engaged. Now it's lawsuits and airing dirty laundry, with RFK Jr. right in the middle.
It's a plot twist, for sure. Okay, so for those of you who haven't been following every detail, here's the rundown. Nuzzi, rising star at New York Magazine. Lizza, big name at Politico. Seemed perfect. Then, bam, news breaks that Nuzzi had an affair with RFK Jr., who she was actually profiling for an article.
And that's where it gets interesting. Nuzzi loses her job. Seems like it's because the affair went public. But then she files a lawsuit against Lizza, claims he threatened to expose the whole thing to destroy her career. Oh, and that he was controlling and abusive.
Wait, hold on. So it went from couple goals to lawsuit that fast. So it's not just an affair anymore, right? Now it's about power, revenge, maybe even serious legal trouble.
And just when you think it can't get any wilder, Lizza countersues. He says Nuzzi made it all up. Says he's the victim here, that there was no blackmail, no threats, didn't steal her devices like she said he did.
So we've got two stories, complete opposites, and it's all playing out in court. It's like House of Cards meets a soap opera.
Exactly. And it gets weirder when you look at what they actually filed with the court. Nuzzi's lawsuit. It's surprisingly vague. No real specifics, dates, direct quotes. If you're accusing someone of blackmail, wouldn't you, bring the proof?
You'd think, right. If you're going to make accusations that serious, you better have something to back it up.
Right. But then you see Liz's filing, and it's the complete opposite. Detailed timeline. He directly addresses everything Nuzzi said, even hints at text messages as evidence. Basically, he's saying, I've got proof.
Whoa, hold up. Text message evidence. Now that's interesting. So he's getting super specific. She's keeping it vague. What do you make of that?
It's definitely a strategy. Lizza's coming out swinging, wants to control the story. It's a no-holds-barred approach, putting it all out there to protect his reputation.
But is it working? And what's Nuzzi doing? Is she just waiting? Stay tuned, because in part 2, we'll dig deeper into why they're doing what they're doing. It's about to get really interesting.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we're picking up right where we left off. This media meltdown is giving us more twists and turns than an actual meltdown. Last time, we were talking about why Nuzzi's being so quiet while Liz is out there with what he says is evidence.
Yeah, it's like they're playing completely different games. He's going all in on the legal stuff, detailed timeline, refuting her points one by one. But she's barely saying anything. Almost like she's got a secret weapon she's waiting to use.
Yeah. And what's really interesting is they're both really good at, media manipulation. They know how to spin things, make people doubt, use public opinion to their advantage. It's like they're both playing chess, but with different rules.
So is Nuzzi being quiet on purpose?
Yeah.
You think maybe she's trying to make him look desperate while she comes off as, I don't know, above it all?
It's possible. Remember, we're talking about two ambitious people, right? Their careers are at stake. Everything they do, everything they say, even when they don't say anything, it's probably a calculated move. Trying to control the damage, trying to come out on top.
It's like they're each writing their own version of the story, but only one of them can be right.
Exactly. And this is where public opinion becomes a factor. Because it doesn't always care about what's actually true in court. Rumors, all that stuff, it spreads so fast, whether it's true or not.
Especially with social media, right? Everyone's got an opinion, and it can go viral in seconds. It's so hard to separate fact from fiction these days. Like a game of telephone where the message changes every time.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember, Nuzzi and Lizza, they're not just, floating in space here. They both have their own reasons for doing what they're doing, things they want to achieve. They've got their personal stuff, their professional ambitions. They want to protect their reputations.
So let's try to break it down. What do you think Nuzzi's hoping to get by staying quiet? Just letting Lizza mess things up worse.
It could be that she's betting on the fact that even if he clears his name legally, his reputation's already damaged. Yeah. Just being accused of blackmail, abuse, leaking stuff, that can really stick with you even if you never get convicted.
Like that saying, mud sticks. Even if you wash it off, there's always a little bit left. And for journalists, credibility is everything, right? That kind of stain can ruin a career.
You got it. And she might be thinking long term. Maybe waiting to see what happens, getting more evidence, planning to come back with a bigger response later once everyone's heard his side.
So she's playing it close to the vest. Waiting for the right moment to strike. What about Lizza? What's he trying to do?
His counterfiling, it's clearly a way to defend himself, right? Fight back against what he says is a lie, a really nasty attack. He's trying to control the story by being super detailed, denying everything, and saying he's got proof.
Like he's saying, don't believe her, believe me. But can he really win back people's trust after accusations like that?
That's the big question. Even if a court says he's innocent, his reputation might be too damaged. It's a good reminder that nowadays your reputation's a fragile thing. It takes years to build, but it can be gone in a second.
And once that trust is broken, it's really hard to earn it back.
Yeah. And this case shows us something else that's happening now. The lines between your personal life and your public image, they're getting blurry. Before, journalists could keep those things separate, but with social media, the news cycle being 24/7, that's almost impossible.
It's like everyone's private life is fair game for the news now.
Exactly. And here we're seeing how personal relationships, professional ambitions, all that, it gets mixed up with media stories in a really messy way. You can't predict it.
It's a story about power, about betrayal, about ambition, and about how truth can be really complicated when everyone sees things differently.
And it makes you wonder, how are we supposed to know what's true? Especially in the news, when things are so complex and confusing. We'll talk more about that in the last part of our deep dive.
All right, deep divers, we're back. And we're wrapping up our deep dive into this Nuzzi-Liza situation. But trust me, this is not going to be a quiet ending. We've talked about what they're accusing each other of, what they're trying to do. But now let's zoom out, look at the bigger picture. This isn't just some messy breakup, right? It's about what's happening to journalism itself.
Exactly. We're at this point where people already don't trust the media that much. And when you have these big-name journalists accusing each other of using their power for personal revenge or not even telling the truth, well, it just makes things worse.
Makes you wonder, how much of what we read is actually real reporting? And how much is just spin or manipulation or even straight-up lies to get what someone wants?
It's scary to think about, isn't it? We're supposed to trust journalists to be the ones who tell the truth, right? To hold powerful people accountable. But when they're the ones caught up in scandals like this, it's hard to know what to believe anymore.
Yeah, who's keeping an eye on the people who are supposed to be keeping an eye on everyone else? And how do we even figure out what's true when everyone seems to have an angle?
This whole thing also shows the kind of tower dynamics in media. Nuzzi and Lizza, they weren't just any journalists. They were like the rising stars, part of the in crowd with access, influence, and the ability to shape how people see things.
And when that power is used the wrong way, like blackmail, manipulation, even just using your platform to get back at someone, it affects more than just those two people.
Absolutely. It makes the whole profession look bad. Makes people question all the journalists who are actually out there trying to report things honestly and fairly.
So what can we do about it? As, people who read the news, how do we deal with all this? Do we just give up and say, it's all fake news anyway?
That's the easy way out, but it's not the answer. We have to be more careful, more critical, more involved. Don't just read stuff passively. Ask questions about your sources, think about their biases, and look for proof of what they're saying.
Be a detective almost. You got to gather the evidence, figure out what makes sense, and reach your own conclusions. Don't just take someone's word for it, even if they're a famous journalist or whatever.
Right. And be open to talking to people who see things differently than you. We need to get out of our own little bubbles and have real conversations where we challenge each other and try to find common ground.
Because ultimately, the truth matters. It matters for our democracy, our society, even how we understand the world. And it's on us, as citizens, as people who read and watch the news, to really try to find it.
This whole Nuzzi-Liza story, with all its ups and downs, it reminds us that the truth can be tricky, that people abuse power, and that the line between someone's personal life and their public image is getting more and more blurred.
It's a story that leaves us with a lot of questions, for sure. But one thing's clear. It's a wake-up call. We all need to be more critical, more involved, and more determined to find the truth, no matter what.
And that concludes our deep dive into this, let's say, interesting and cautionary tale. As things continue to unfold, let's all remember to be skeptical, to question things, and to always be committed to uncovering the truth, no matter where it leads us.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep being curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.